بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد طب القلوب ودوائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا فتحنا لك فتحا مبينا ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك ويهديك صراطا مستقيما. The first of our loud salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Third, with your loudest voices, in honor of Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Fourth, in honor of Imam Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salam. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The decision of Imam Hassan ibn Ali to enter a treaty with Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan is a decision which is widely misunderstood in Islamic circles, and is a decision which requires a thorough analysis. For any of the political agreements or any of the political constitutions which were stipulated by the prophets or indeed the imams have to be examined in depth in order that we are able to understand the wisdom behind these agreements. Because what we find is that unfortunately in many Islamic circles the biography of Imam Hassan is very much neglected, whereas the biography of others who lived in his time is very much studied. And therefore there is a need for us to affiliate ourselves and understand what was the basis of the treaty of Imam Hassan, known in the Arabic language as Sulh al-Hassan. Because when we examine history, we find that unfortunately Imam Hassan is viewed as a weak character in Islamic history. And he is viewed as a weak character in both his personal conduct and indeed his political affairs. In terms of his personal conduct, we find that throughout history, Imam Hassan has unfortunately been seen as a person whose personal conduct was seen by historians both of Islam and outside the religion of Islam as being a personal conduct which does not befit that of a leader. In which way? When you look at historians of the past, you find people like Wilfred Shora in his book The Agha Khans writing that Imam Hassan was the great divorcer. Likewise, you find someone like Henri Lamons in his book writing that Imam Hassan in his youth, all he did was marry and divorce. Marry and divorce. And likewise, you find Amir Ali in his book, The Spirit of Islam, writing that Imam Hassan was fond of an easy and quiet life, referring to the idea that all Imam Hassan was interested in when he was young and in his youth was the interest of marrying and divorcing. And unfortunately, this has always been a black mark on the life of Imam Hassan by historians. And this concept was begun from the time of Banu Abbas. For when they looked at the life of Imam Hassan, they viewed him as being of weak personal conduct. And it was begun by the Khalifa al-Mansur al-Dawaniqi. Why? Al-Mansur al-Dawaniqi, from about the 144th year of Hijrah, faced a major battle in his lifetime with Muhammad Nafs al-Zakiyah. Muhammad Nafs al-Zakiyah was from the descendants of Imam Hassan. You see, Banu Abbas, when they came into power, they came with the slogan that we come in the name of the family of Rasulullah. When they came with the slogan to overthrow Bani Umayyah, they said that we are the people who want to give the rights back to the family of Rasulullah. And so they used that slogan to overthrow Bani Umayyah in the revolution. However, when they came into power, they forgot all about the slogan. At the beginning, they promised that the power would be given to the family of the Prophet. Whereas what did they do? They kept the power in the line of Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet. Doing this, Muhammad Nafs al-Zakiyya rose against Al-Mansur. Al-Mansur tried to deflect the idea of the imamate being from the sons of Ali. Muhammad Nafs al-Zakiyya was from the sons of Imam al-Hassan. Mansur al-Dawaniqi began to spread an idea about Imam al-Hassan that continued until today. What was the idea? He said, we accept Ali ibn Abi Talib as being Khalifa. And then after him, his son Hassan took the Khilafah. But then his son Hassan gave the Khilafah to Muawiyah, because he was more interested in money and he was more interested in women. And so he said his son Hassan one day gets married, the next day gets divorced. Another day gets married, another day gets divorced. This type of writing about Imam Hassan did not stop there. Why? Because he wanted to make sure that anybody in Imam Hassan's line who would later on come and say that the Khilafah belongs to us, he would always say, why does it belong to you? Your grandfather Hassan gave the Khilafah to Muawiyah when he made a treaty with Muawiyah. Therefore, in the same way your grandfather gave away his Khilafah, you should give away your Khilafah as well. Why are you chasing it? Later, the books of Hadith would write about Imam Hassan on the first level that he was a person of weak personal conduct. That's why, for example, Abu al-Hasan al-Madaini, who lived until the 225th year of Hijrah, writes that Imam Hassan married 70 women in his lifetime. How many? 70. Even though in Al-Mizan al-I'tidal writes very clearly that Imam al-Hassan, this person, Abu al-Hasan al-Madaini, who claims that the Imam married 70, that person is a liar and should never be relied on. Then you had, for example, another of the famous scholars, Abu Talib al-Makki, wrote in his book, Quwwat al-Qulub, he says Imam Hassan married 300 women in his lifetime. Where you get the time for 300 women, I don't know. 300 women in his lifetime, he is meant to have married them. Even though when you read about Abu Talib al-Makki, Abu Talib al-Makki is the same person who said, you should fear Allah, for He is the most harmful to His creation. Would you take a hadith from someone like that? And this Abu Talib al-Makki narrates that Ali ibn Abi Talib was embarrassed from how much Imam Hassan used to marry and divorce. He says that Ali ibn Abi Talib would come out to the people and say, do not give your daughters to my son Hassan, because he is embarrassing me. He marries and divorces and marries and divorces and marries and divorces. Then the tribe of Hamdan came to Ali ibn Abi Talib, or the tribe of Hamadan came. They said, oh Ali, we will give our daughters to Hassan. Whichever of them he wants to marry, he can marry. And whichever of them he wants to divorce, he can divorce. And supposedly, Ali ibn Abi Talib replied by saying, if I was at the gates of Jannah, I would say to your tribe, enter with peace. These types of ahadith are unfortunately in the book. And in many of the books until today, the first type of weakness people have about Imam Hassan is that they said all he did was marry and divorce. Marry and divorce. They say that his marriage and his divorce took place over a 14-year period. From the time when his father became Khalifa until the time Imam Hassan died. They said in this 14-year period, Imam Hassan married between 70 to 300 women. Easily you can refute it, and it's vital that you have the knowledge of how to refute it. Do you know how you refute it? By the time of the 37th year of Hijrah, Imam Hassan was married to 3 women. These 3 women were the only women he had. If we were to say that if you're married to 3 already in Islam, how many more are you allowed to marry? 1. True? So if we were now to say that from the 37th year of Hijrah to the 50th year of Hijrah, a 14-year period, because Imam Ali became Khalifa in that period, and then Imam Hassan died in the 50th year of Hijrah. If we were to say in that 14-year period, Imam Hassan's already married to 3. That means he is allowed to marry 1 more. If we were to say he marries 1 more and then divorces her, he can only marry how many a year? He can only marry 3, because in terms of that 1 more, he marries her, he divorces her, there's an iddah period. He marries, divorces, there's an iddah. If you say he marries 3 a year for 14 years in a row, that means the maximum number of wives he could have married is 42 wives. If we say Imam Hassan had nothing else to do in life but marry. So therefore, on the first level, Imam Hassan was viewed as a person of weak personal conduct. Then on the second level, he was viewed as a person who was weak politically. How? Dr. Taha Hussein in his book Al-Fitnat Al-Kubra says that Imam Hassan disagreed with his father Ali ibn Abi Talib. He says that Imam Hassan was Uthmani, not Alawi. He followed the leadership of Uthman, not the leadership of Ali. To the extent he narrates a weak tradition where he says one day Amir al-Mu'mineen saw Imam Hassan doing his wudu. Then when it came to the feet, he saw Imam Hassan washing his feet, not rubbing. So he said, my son Hassan, why are you washing your feet? You're meant to be rubbing your feet. He said, I am following the rightful Khalifa who used to wash his feet, and you are the one who killed him. Therefore they say that Imam Hassan did not incline himself with his father. He inclined himself with whom? With Uthman and the school of Uthman. And that's why they continue to say that Imam Hassan was politically weak. Why? Because they say he abdicated his Khilafah. They said if Imam Hassan was a person who was politically strong, he would never have made a treaty with Muawiyah. He would have stayed in his leadership and he would have continued to rule the Muslim state. But we find clearly that Rasulullah, they forget what he said about Imam Hassan. Rasulullah himself said, my son Hassan will bring peace between 2 quarreling nations. Rasulullah said, Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein are your imams whether they are standing or whether they are sitting. Meaning that whether they fight or they sit and remain peaceful, they are still the imams of your time. However, they forgot these statements and they said, Imam Hassan is not the 5th Khalifa of Islam. Because when you go to our brothers in other schools in Islam, they say there's only 4 rightly guided Khulafa. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali. How about Imam Hassan? Imam Hassan is not rightly guided. Imam Hassan is not rightly guided. Imam Hassan is a person who him and Muawiyah had a difference of opinion. Therefore, we cannot call them rightly guided. Therefore, what you found is that many came forward and said Imam al-Hassan was weak politically as well as on his personal level. And that's why you find that they say because Imam al-Hassan did not rise against Muawiyah, you cannot take him as a political leader. Because many Muslims have the idea that if you rise with the sword, that is a greater jihad than remaining patient. Many have this idea that the person who rises with the sword is strong, whereas the one who remains patient is weak. Look at Ali ibn Abi Talib. When he fought in many of the battles, everybody said, look how strong Ali ibn Abi Talib is. In Badr and in Uhud and in Khandaq and in Hunayn, all of these battles, he gave everything to Islam. The moment they stole Ali ibn Abi Talib's leadership, when Ali ibn Abi Talib remained peaceful for 25 years and did not fight, suddenly everybody said, look how weak Ali ibn Abi Talib is. When Ali ibn Abi Talib rose with his sword, everybody said strong. But when Ali ibn Abi Talib thought it's the best for Islam that I remain backward and I remain peaceful, so the Muslim Ummah does not fight, you found people saying, why is Ali ibn Abi Talib so weak? Why doesn't Ali ibn Abi Talib rise? Whereas the religion of Islam said Jihad al-Akbar is the jihad of the patience of the self. And the Jihad al-Asghar is the one with the sword. Somebody who fights with the sword, that's the minor jihad. But someone who remains patient at a time where he can rise with his sword, that's the major jihad. That's why we find when we come to examine the life of our second Imam, many people ask, why did he make a treaty? Why did he do Sulh al-Hassan? The word Sulh in English means a treaty. Sulh al-Hassan, they say, why didn't he just fight Muawiyah? You see, with every Imam of Ahl al-Bayt, the basis of any decision they take is that Rasulullah would have done the same if he was there. And that's why Imam al-Hassan, when he was asked, why did you do a sulh with Muawiyah? He replied, because of Sulh al-Hudaibiya. Sulh al-Hudaibiya is the most famous treaty in the life of Rasulullah. And Imam al-Hassan said, my treaty with Muawiyah was because of Sulh al-Hudaibiya and what my grandfather did with Quraysh. When you examine Sulh al-Hudaibiya, you will find that the wisdom of Imam al-Hassan was greater than what his followers think he had. Let me explain. You see, Sulh al-Hudaibiya is mentioned in the Quran, in Surah 48 of the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to his prophet, Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. We have given you your greatest ever victory. Some people think the greatest victory, the Fath of Rasulullah, was the day of opening Mecca. No. The day of opening Mecca and the 8th day of Hijrah is mentioned in Surah إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. That Fath, that opening is the opening of Mecca. Whereas the opening of Hudaybiya is إِنَّا فَتَحْنَا لَكَ فَتْحًا مُبِينًا. We have given you your greatest victory. The first aspect of Hudaybiya, which clearly emerges, is what? Is that anyone who says Rasulullah spread his religion with the sword, if Rasulullah spread his religion with the sword, why does Allah call his peace treaty with the Quraysh his greatest victory? Why doesn't Allah say Badr or Uhud or Khandaq or Khaybar is his greatest victory? If the sword is the greatest victory for a human being, why does Rasulullah say the victory, or why does Allah say the victory of Rasulullah at Hudaybiya is his greatest ever victory? You see, when you examine Hudaybiya, you'll understand, because Hudaybiya came from a dream of Rasulullah. Allah communicates to his creation through 3 different ways. Either through the angel Jibreel, he sends an angel to his creation. Or through inspiration, he inspires his creation with a thought. Or through a dream. The dream is known as ru'ya. 2 prophets before Rasulullah, Allah had communicated to them a message through the dream. The first one was the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. When Allah communicated to him in a dream that he has to sacrifice his son Ismail. قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك. That's why later on Allah says قد صدقت الرؤيا. You have definitely achieved what our message was in the dream. The second prophet who got a message in his dream was Prophet Yusuf. When he saw in his dream the stars all prostrating before him. That's why his father said لا تقصص رؤياك. Don't tell your dream to any of your brothers. Hudaybiya came from a dream Rasulullah saw in the 19th year of his prophethood. 4 or 5 years before he died. What did he see in this dream? In this dream, he saw himself with the keys of the Kaaba. And he saw some of his companions with their heads clean shaved, and others of the companions not shaved. And he saw himself wearing ihram. When he saw this, when he woke up, he went to his companions. What did he say to them? He said to his companions, I have seen a dream that we will be entering Mecca. Who is ready to come with me from Medina to go to Mecca? 1,400 companions said, Ya Rasulullah, we will join you and we will go. He said, let's go. When they left Medina to go to Mecca, Amir al-Mu'mineen was holding the banner. Salama was the only wife of Rasulullah to go with him on this trip. Rasulullah took with him some animals. Why? He said, we will take them to sacrifice them. When Rasulullah left, he told his soldiers, we are not going to Mecca to fight. So put your swords away. All you should have is the sheath of the sword. You know a sword, you put it in the sheath, yeah? He said, all you should take is the sheath, not any sword. They said, okay. He said, I'm not going to fight. I'm going for peace. They said, okay, we are with you. They went towards Medina. On their way going towards Medina, the Quraysh had heard that Rasulullah is coming towards Medina. The Quraysh were scared. You know why? He had already defeated them when they tried to attack him in Badr. He had already defeated them when they tried to attack him in Uhud. Now they thought, surely, after 19 years of us persecuting him, now surely this army he is coming with is an army to come and kill us. Was that his intention? No. His intention was peace. So what did the Quraysh do? They said to Khalid ibn al-Walid, they said to him, Khalid, go and get 200 soldiers and go and attack Muhammad and kill him. The news reached Rasulullah that Khalid ibn Walid was coming with 200 soldiers. So do you know what Rasulullah did? He said to his companions, let's go the other way to Medina. Let's go the rocky road. There is a rocky road between Medina and Mecca. He said, let's take the rocky road to Mecca to avoid Khalid ibn al-Walid. So he took that rocky road. He was sitting on his camel. The camel of Rasulullah was a blessed camel. As you know, when Rasulullah wanted to build Masjid al-Nabawi, he said, where my camel will sit will be where we start building. So what happened was they allowed the camel, they were traveling with it, all of a sudden the camel sat. Rasulullah tried to make the camel move, it sat. Again he tried to make it move, it sat. Rasulullah said, this is a message from Allah that we have to stay here. Where did they stay? They stayed at a place between Medina and Mecca called Hudaibiya. They stayed at that place. Rasulullah said, we will now camp here. The Meccans had heard that Rasulullah was now in Hudaibiya. They decided to send some envoys to see what's Rasulullah's aim in him coming towards Medina. So they sent an envoy. The first envoy came. Rasulullah said, we have just come for Umrah. Because remember, there was only one Hajj in the time of Rasulullah. So they said, we have only come for Umrah. They said to Muhammad, have you come to fight us? He said, no, I haven't come to fight. I've just come peacefully for Umrah. They went back. The Quraysh said, we don't believe you. They sent another envoy. Muhammad, why have you come? He said, for Umrah. The person came back to the Quraysh. He said, he's come peacefully for Umrah. They said, we don't believe him. They even sent a Christian. The Christian came towards Rasulullah. He said, Muhammad, what's the reason of you coming? He said, look, the Quraysh have persecuted us for years. My religion is not a religion of revenge. My religion is that I want to come towards Mecca with my companions, not to fight. I want to come peacefully. He said, look at my companions. Do you see them have a sword? Is there a sword? He said, no. He said, then why have I come to fight? I've come for peace. He said, okay. He went back to the Quraysh. Again, they didn't believe him. Even the Christian, they didn't believe him. Until the Quraysh said, we will send Urwa bin Mas'ud al-Thaqafi, the grandfather of Ali al-Akbar. Urwa bin Mas'ud al-Thaqafi, when he came, Urwa bin Mas'ud, he came to Rasulullah, but before he came, he said to the Quraysh, he said, listen to me. If I go to Muhammad and I come back, and I tell you what Muhammad is honestly doing, are you going to listen to me sincerely, or are you going to reject me like you rejected the rest? They said, no, we will listen to you sincerely. He said, okay. He came near Rasulullah. Do you know how he said Salamu Alaikum to Rasulullah? He pulled his beard and sat and put his knee in his lap. His nephew Mughira was next to Rasulullah. His nephew said, how dare you touch Rasulullah like that? Rasulullah said, no, leave him. Mughira said, why? He said, because Banu Thaqif, the way they say Assalamu Alaikum to you is they pull your beard and they put their knee in your lap. Culture. Rasulullah did not reject culture. He only rejects culture when it goes outside Islam. Otherwise there's no harm with someone's culture. If it's a good culture within Sharia, why not? Imagine someone pulls your beard when they say Salamu Alaikum to you. So he pulled his beard, then he put the knee on the lap, then he said, Muhammad, why have you come? He said, we have come to make peace with the Quraysh. I want my followers for the first time to go and see their families in Mecca. For years they haven't seen their family. I want to meet the people of Quraysh. We don't want to always fight. Urwa bin Mas'ud returned to the Quraysh leaders. He said, I tell you, Muhammad has not come to fight. And then he said, I tell you, there is no man like Muhammad. I said, how? He said, not only has he come to make peace with people who have killed many of his family and many of his companions, he also said, there are no soldiers like the soldiers of Muhammad. When he does wudu, they jump for the water which drops from his hands. And they tell us it is a bid'ah for us to go and try and come near Rasulullah. The same companions, when he does wudu, use this in your debates. Use it. When he does wudu, the water that drops, they jump to touch it. Is that shirk? Then he says, if the saliva would come from his mouth, I tell you, they would go and hold that saliva. He said they have not come for anything but peace. The Quraysh were thinking, well, if Urwa bin Mas'ud is saying this, surely we must listen to him. But they rejected even Urwa. Do you know what they did? In the middle of the night, they sent 70 of their soldiers to go and attack the companions of Rasulullah. But when they came in the middle of the night, Rasulullah had such a strong army that they caught those soldiers. Some of the companions, when they caught those soldiers, said, Rasulullah, let's kill them. Rasulullah said, no, let them go. They said to him, what? He said, let them go. They said, Ya Rasulullah, let's kill them. They are our enemies. He said, I told you we have not come to kill anyone. Let them go. When they realized this, they suddenly began to realize Rasulullah truthfully has come to make a treaty. Because if their enemies have tried to attack you in the night, and you have let them go without doing anything to them, you have come as a treaty. So then what did Rasulullah say? Rasulullah said, in the same way the Quraysh have sent me envoys, now I will send them envoys. He said, I have to send someone who has no blood of the Quraysh on his sword. Why? Because if you send someone who has the blood of Quraysh on his sword, they will say he has killed many of our family. As in, can you send Ali ibn Abi Talib? No. Because they'll say Ali ibn Abi Talib has killed half of our families. Can you send Zubair? No. Can you send Ammar ibn Yasir? No. Can you send Abu Dhar al-Ghafar? No. You can't send none of these companions. Rasulullah said, I have to send someone who has no blood of Quraysh on his sword. So he said, where is Umar ibn al-Khattab? Bring him to me. When he said that, they brought him. He said, Umar, you have no blood of any Quraysh on your sword. Because he hadn't killed anyone in war. So he said, you haven't killed anyone, so therefore, because of that, there is nothing on you. So you have to go. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I am scared to go. Let someone else. So he said, okay. The only other person, of course, who didn't have any blood on his sword was Uthman ibn Affan. Why? He said, Uthman bin Affan, you come. Number one, Uthman bin Affan had never killed anyone in war. In Uhud, he had run away. The most famous person to run away on the day of Uhud was Uthman. Every book says this. Number two, he was from Bani Umayyah. So his cousins were still in the Quraysh. Uthman bin Affan went. The Muslims thought he would come back with a good resolution. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, 9, 10, 11, 12, 19 days he still hasn't returned. Many Muslims were wondering, what shall we now do? They started getting fidgety. Uthman hasn't returned. There are many of us who are thirsty. The heat is killing us. Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari said, you know what Rasulullah did? He had a cup of water in his hand. His companions were saying, we're getting thirsty. You said we're going to be victorious. We have still not achieved anything. Look at the rudeness of the tongue. They said, we have not achieved anything. He had a cup of water in his hand. He put his hand in the cup of water. Water started coming out of the cup. Jabir said, I swear 100,000 people could have been quenched their thirst with the water coming out. He said Rasulullah did this to make the companions certain. Then Rasulullah took a bay'ah from his companions. One of the most famous bay'ah called the bay'ah of Ridwan. The pledge under the tree. There was a tree. He took a bay'ah from all of them. He said, do you all believe in me? Do you believe that what I am saying is truthful? That we will enter Mecca? I didn't tell you when. I said we will enter Mecca. Do you believe in me? If you do, all of you pledge your allegiance. Uthman still hadn't come back. The rest of them, they pledged their allegiance. Allah revealed the verse. We were testing their belief because we know what is in the hearts of some of them. Rasulullah, Uthman came back. He said, Ya Rasulullah, you cannot make peace with these people. They are too strong. Umar as well said, you cannot make peace. Rasulullah said, no, I will definitely make peace with these people. That day, that same companion went to Abu Bakr and said, today I question the prophethood of Muhammad. He said, we are going to be victorious. We have still not achieved any victory. Go to the books. He says, I question his prophethood. Rasulullah waited until the Quraysh sent Suhail ibn Amr. When Suhail ibn Amr came, Quraysh realized, Muhammad has not come to kill us. Suhail came. He said, now we will make a treaty. Rasulullah said, Ali ibn Abi Talib, you come. Suhail come. They brought them together. They started writing down. Ali ibn Abi Talib, Rasulullah told him, write, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Suhail said, wait. What do you mean Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? If we believed Allah is Rahman and Allah is Rahim, we wouldn't be fighting you all these years. So Rasulullah said, what do you want written? They said, we want Bismika Allahumma. I said, okay. Ali, write Bismika Allahumma. So Amir al-Mu'mineen wrote it. Then Rasulullah said, write Muhammad Rasulullah. Ali ibn Abi Talib wrote it down. So I said, wait. What's going on? I said, why? He said, if we believed you are Rasulullah, you think we'll fight you? So he said, what do you want written down? They said, write Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Ali ibn Abi Talib looked at Rasulullah. He said, Ya Rasulullah, can I be excused from having to rub off Muhammad Rasulullah? Look at the height. One of them calls Rasulullah delirious. The other says, can I be excused? Look at the height. He says, can I be excused from rubbing? Rasulullah said, don't worry, Ali. One day it's the same thing will happen to you. Subhanallah, in Siffin, when Amir al-Mu'mineen came with Amr ibn al-As, Amr ibn al-As was watching Amir al-Mu'mineen write when they came to the treaty. Amir al-Mu'mineen wrote, this is a treaty between Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As said to him, if we believed you are Amir al-Mu'mineen, we wouldn't be fighting you. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, Subhanallah, sunnah bi sunnah. What happened with Rasulullah happens with me. Anyway, he told them, don't worry, Ali, write Muhammad bin Abdullah. Let's do the treaty. Rasulullah, couldn't he have easily picked up his sword and gone in a battle and killed them? Could he? But he thought a treaty is more wise. Why? Because when you write a treaty, sometimes a war doesn't expose the hypocrisy of the opposition. But when you write a treaty, you are saying, okay, you believe you are right, let's put down some terms. Let's see if you can live by these terms. If you do, then you are truthful. But let's expose you through these terms. So they said, what are the terms of the treaty? He said, the first term of the treaty is for 10 years. There will not be any fighting between the Muslims and the Quraysh. They said, okay. He said, what's number 2? He said, if a Quraysh comes towards Medina to become a Muslim, we will give him back to Quraysh. They said, okay. He said, if a Quraysh goes to Medina, we'll give him back. But if a Muslim comes to the Quraysh, you can keep him. You can even have what you want with him. Some of the Muslims said, Ya Rasulullah, what do you mean? If a Quraysh comes to us, we have to give him back. But if one of us goes to them, they can keep him. He said, don't worry, there is a wisdom. Be patient. What else? He said, if my Muslims of Medina want to engage in economy with Quraysh, you will not stop them. They can buy and sell from Quraysh, from Mecca. They said, okay. He said, if my Muslims want to visit Mecca, you will not harass them. They will live there in peace. They said, okay. Some of the companions said, Ya Rasulullah, we are making a mistake. He said, we are not making a mistake. Be patient. As soon as he was writing the treaty, all of a sudden, a person by the name of Abu Jandal came in. Abu Jandal was the son of Suhail, the one who was writing for the Quraysh. He was in chains when he walked in. He said, Ya Rasulullah, free me. My father is an enemy of yours. Free me. I want to come and live with you in Medina. Rasulullah said, yes, you should be freed. Suhail said, no way, Muhammad. You have just accepted that if a Quraysh comes to you, you will give him back. Rasulullah said, but we haven't signed. Abu Jandal said, but Muhammad, you have given me a verbal agreement. Rasulullah said, okay. So he said, Abu Jandal, you have to go back to Suhail. Abu Jandal said, Ya Rasulullah, my father will continue to torture me. He said, don't worry. Give it a few months, you will see what happens. So he went back. And so the Muslims went back with this victory. Even later on, when this had happened, Rasulullah's wisdom emerged. How? The wisdom emerged from Rasulullah. Others couldn't see why he made the treaty. But he made the treaty why? Because now he knew that his own Muslims can go back to Mecca in peace. Imagine you are a Muslim. You were living in Medina for years. You weren't allowed to go and see your mother in Mecca. Now when you go to your mother says to you, how is Muhammad? Is he a good person? You say, oh mother, do you know Muhammad says heaven lies underneath the feet of the mother? His intention is, I know as slowly more people from Medina go back to Mecca, slowly we will change Mecca without the need of a sword. Subhanallah. What a political step. But he allowed all his companions, they were all going back to Mecca peacefully. All of them were now seeing their parents. Slowly, more and more people from Mecca were becoming Muslims. Because your sons and your daughters are going back peacefully. You ask them, they answer. You ask them, they answer. But still, there was one area in that treaty Rasulullah wanted to show the people of Mecca that don't listen to Abu Sufyan and Abu Jahl and all of these. They don't want peace at all. They are all liars. What was the one part? He said there will be 10 years peace. No killing. The Meccans said, yes, don't worry, we'll do it. Did they honor? Oh no. No, they didn't. Because in the 9th year of Hijrah, between the 9th and the 10th year of Hijrah, in the period when Surah At-Tawbah was revealed, Surah 9, the only surah in the Quran which does not begin with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Why doesn't it begin with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? Because it's Allah saying to the Prophet Muhammad, I want you now to completely dissociate yourself from the Quraysh. Never make peace with the people of Mecca again. Because they have just broken the treaty of Hudaibiya. How did they break it? The Banu Bakr were a tribe of the Quraysh. The Banu Khuza'a were a tribe of Muslims living there. The Banu Bakr in the middle of the night went and executed the Banu Khuza'a. Did Rasulullah have to use a sword to expose their character? No. Rasulullah signed a treaty like any country in the world does today. You sign a treaty. You have to honor that treaty. But if you break that treaty, what does it say about your character? That you cannot honor a treaty and that you are hypocrites. When Surah At-Tawbah was revealed, Allah said no more treaties. Every time they attack you, you made peace with them. No more peace. Those who attacked Islam, now you have to go and defend Islam and attack them. In the same way Rasulullah exposed the Quraysh with Sulh al-Hudaybiya, Imam Hassan exposed Muawiyah with Sulh al-Hasan. That's why when they said to Imam Hassan, why are you making a treaty with Muawiyah? Why don't you just go and fight him? He said, I am doing what my grandfather done in Hudaybiya. Do you know how? Imam Hassan, he knew his people very well. A hypocrite is harder to expose than a kafir. A kafir who drinks openly, womanizes openly, dances with the young boys openly like Yazid. A kafir, you can expose him easily. a hypocrite who prays and fasts in front of the people, but behind the back is not easy to expose. If you fight them in a war, no one will ever say you are right, because all they see of him is good manners. So Imam thought, a war will not expose him. Let a treaty expose him. Let's put 5 terms on a treaty with him, and let the whole world know that he cannot honor the terms on a treaty that he himself signed. When he came to the treaty, Imam said, there are 5 points, O Muawiyah. If you are truly sincere as a leader, there are 5 points you have to honor. The first one is to protect the sunnah of Rasulullah. The second one, you stop cursing Ali ibn Abi Talib on the Friday prayer. The third one, you stop killing the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib. The fourth one is that there are 5 million dirhams in the treasury of Kufa, which is blood money for those who have died in Jamal and Saffin and Nahrawan. Don't take any of that money. The fifth one is that when you die, you give the leadership back to me or my brother Imam al-Hussein. Imam Hassan didn't need to fight, because nobody would have ever thought Imam Hassan was right. So he simply said, if you are a good leader and you're sincere, honor these 5 and show the Muslim world what you really are. Number 1, protect the sunnah of Rasulullah. Did he protect the sunnah? Salat al-Jum'ah is on a Friday or on a Wednesday? I think Jum'ah means Friday, if I'm not mistaken. Only one Khalifa in history prayed it on Wednesday. He wanted to test how loyal the Muslims were to him. So he said, let's pray Jum'ah on a Wednesday. So everybody prayed it on a Wednesday. Amir al-Mu'minin used to say, give me 1 of Muawiyah's, I'll give you 10 of mine. Look how loyal blindly they are to him. He tells them, pray Jum'ah on a Wednesday. I, Ali ibn Abi Talib, told you to do one thing, you don't listen to me. They listen to him, Jum'ah on a Wednesday. Not only that, the khutbah of Salat al-Jum'ah is meant to be done standing. The only Khalifa in history who done it sitting down was Muawiyah. Couldn't be bothered standing up. He sat down and gave the khutbah. The Quran says, وَتَرَكُوكَ قَائِمًا in Surah al-Jum'ah. Qa'iman means you were standing. He's done the khutbah of Salat al-Jum'ah sitting. Number 3, when you find protection of the sunnah, protection of the sunnah is you not putting Quran on the spears. Before the treaty, he had already violated. But even after the treaty, in Islam, when someone commits adultery, you don't mention him as the son of the one who committed adultery with his mother. Whereas he called his brother Ziyad the son of Abu Sufyan. He wouldn't call him Ziyad, son of his father. He said, what's wrong? So what if my father done adultery with his mother? Name him. Number 1, protection of the sunnah wasn't protected. Number 2, stop cursing Ali ibn Abi Talib from the minbar. Did he stop? Ali ibn Abi Talib was cursed for 90 years from the minbar. Until Umar ibn Abdul Aziz stopped the cursing of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, do you know how long he was after Muawiyah? Muawiyah, Yazid, Muawiyah, Marwan, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, Walid bin Abdul Malik, Sulaiman bin Abdul Malik. And then it continued until Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Years after. He, on the contrary, Muawiyah, used to encourage people to curse Ali ibn Abi Talib, to the extent he told Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, why don't you curse Ali ibn Abi Talib? It became a norm. Number 2. Number 3, Imam Hassan said, protect the Shia of Imam Ali. Did you know Muawiyah was the cause of killing Hijr bin Adi al-Kindi? Those of you who've been ziyarat to Sham would have gone and visit Hijr. That holy personality who Rasulullah used to say is the monk of the Sahaba, because he used to pray 1,000 ruk'ah a night. Hijr bin Adi spoke out against Ziyad. Why? Because Ziyad used to lead Salat al-Jum'ah and he used to curse Ali ibn Abi Talib while leading. Hijr spoke out. He said, how dare you curse Ali ibn Abi Talib? Ziyad could not take that Hijr spoke out. Do you know what he wrote? He wrote a letter to Muawiyah. He said, Hijr and his companions, they are blaspheming against Allah. Did they blaspheme against Allah? No. All they said is that you can't curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. Muawiyah ordered Hijr bin Adi and his companions the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib, he ordered them to be executed. Do you know before Hajr bin Adi was executed, do you know what he said? They used to, in Arabian tradition, before they execute you, they used to say to you, what's your final wish before you die? He said, kill my son. Said to him, no. What's your final wish? He said, kill my son, kill him. My son's next to me. That's why he's buried next to his son. They said to him, what's wrong with you? Why do you want us to kill your son? Don't you want something else? He said, kill my son, then kill me. Said to him, why? They came and they executed his son. When they executed his son, he said, Alhamdulillah, now you can kill me. Said to him, why? He said, now I die in peace, knowing my son would not die loving Muawiyah, but rather died loving Ali ibn Abi Talib. I cannot take dying, thinking that after you kill me, he may go to Muawiyah and sit with him. Now you've killed him, I die peacefully, knowing I brought up a follower of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They went and they executed him. They executed Ammar ibn Hamaq al-Khuza'i, one of the great companions of Rasulullah. They poisoned Imam Hassan ibn Ali. All of these were done. They sent Samara bin Jundub to Basra to kill 8,000 of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt. They sent Bisr bin Arta'a to go and kill 30,000 of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt. Number 3, protect the followers of my father. Did he? No. Number 4, the treasury of Kufa has 5 million dirham. It was for the blood money. You know, many widows, after Jamal, after Siffin, after Nahrawan, many of the widows had died. There was a Baytul Mal to give them money to look after them. He took the Baytul Mal and he started building himself palaces in Sham. Go to Sham today. They tell you, that's Muawiyah's palace. That's Muawiyah's palace. Where was the money from? From the money of the Baytul Mal of the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Number 4. Number 5, the last thing which Imam Hassan exposed from Muawiyah was the area of appointing a Khalifa after him. Why? Imam Hassan said, Muawiyah, I'm making a treaty with you. You don't appoint Yazid after you. You appoint me, if I'm still around, or you appoint my brother Imam al-Hussein. If Muawiyah played his cards right, then someone can say Imam Hassan lost. But the moment Muawiyah put Yazid, Imam Hassan won the whole of history. Because he exposed Muawiyah that he did not want to protect Islam. He wanted to protect the name of Arab nationalism and Bani Umayyah. Because Muawiyah, do you know how he appointed Yazid? It wasn't easy. You can't all of a sudden appoint Yazid. Muawiyah, a few days before he passes away, in his last days, he's wondering, how shall I put Yazid in power? How can I make the succession easy? So he called Mughira bin Shu'bah. He said, Mughira, I've got a question to ask you. I want to put Yazid as my successor. How do I put him in? Mughira said, listen to me. Abdul Rahman, son of Abu Bakr, is still alive. Abdullah, son of Umar, is still alive. Hussein, son of Ali, is still alive. Who's going to want your son to be Khalifa? Your son is a drunkard. He's a womanizer. He plays with young women. Who would want him? So he said, what shall I do? He said, look, give him 2 years. Make him look religious. And then put him in. Muawiyah said, okay, thank you for your advice. Then Muawiyah called Ziyad. He said, Ziyad, I want to put Yazid in power after me. How shall I do it? Ziyad said, very easy. He said, how? He said, let's get a hadith of Muhammad about something that will happen in the future. Let Yazid be there. He said, sorry? He said, let's get a hadith from Muhammad about something that will happen in the future, which he said, and let Yazid be at the incident. He said, what do you mean? He said, there's a hadith Muhammad said before he died, that the army that fights in Constantinople, modern day Turkey, the army of Muslims who fights there, they will be forgiven of everything by Allah. He said, so what shall I do? He said, let Yazid join the army. Don't let him fight. Just let him be around the scene. So that when the narrator writes the hadith, he says, Yazid bin Muawiyah was there. So when Yazid returns, we say, Rasulullah said, whoever fought in Turkey, Allah has forgiven him. He said, that's a lovely piece of advice. He called Yazid. Yazid, come here. He said, yes. He said, I want you to do something. He said, what? He said, there's an army going to Constantinople. Go, and I want you to not fight, but just be around there. He said, okay, I'm going. Yazid was married to a girl called Kulthum. He said, Kulthum, come with me, let's go. He said, where? He said, we're going on holiday. He said, where? He said, don't worry. Kulthum came, she went with him. Marwan ibn al-Hakam used to have a holiday guest house on the borders of Turkey. It was called Farqaduni. It was in the area called Al-Farqaduni. Yazid said, listen, we're going to go to his guest house. We will have a nice few days. I need to do a favor for my father. She said, let's go. When they went, the news came from the army, which was led by Sufyan ibn Auf. The news came saying, the army has had a major plague. Many have died because of a plague. When the news reached Muawiyah, he said, is Yazid there? They said, sorry, he's not exactly there. He said, what do you mean? They said, he's with Kulthum. He said, he took Kulthum with him? He said, yes. He said, who takes his wife to the battle? So he said, what are they doing? He said, he's been in his house drunk and singing. He said, singing what? He said, let the army stay at Farqaduni while I am in my house with Kulthumi. So he became angry. Muawiyah sent him a message saying, quickly get yourself near that battlefield. I do not care if you do not die. Just get there so I can make the hadith become true. Yazid went, he went near the battlefield, he saw everyone's nearly dead, he just went there, someone saw him, hadith. Rasulullah said, whoever was at the army which fought in Constantinople is forgiven of all his sins by Rasulullah. Amongst the people who was there was Yazid, son of Muawiyah. As soon as he came back, suddenly Mughira bin Shu'bah heard. Mughira sent 30 of the ulama of Kufa. He sent them towards Muawiyah. They came. They said, Muawiyah, we are ready to give bay'ah to Yazid. Muawiyah said, how quickly did you get the news? Said, Mughira bin Shu'bah told us. He said, okay, well done. I want you to go around starting to spread this news that Yazid was in the army and that Allah has forgiven all of his sins and that now he can lead the Muslim Ummah. Then Muawiyah said to them, I want to ask you something. How much did you sell your soul for? To write this hadith. They said 300,000 dirhams. He said, how cheap all of you are. But go ahead, you've done a good job. Then the rumor got spread that Yazid was going to become Khalifa. After this, Imam Hassan had now exposed Muawiyah. Instead of rising with a sword and causing bloodshed, Imam simply made 5 points like how his grandfather done at Hudaibiya. 5 points, all of them exposed his enemy later on. That's why one scholar says, were it not for the treaty of Imam Hassan with Muawiyah, there would not be a single follower of Rasulullah alive in the world today. Either Imam Hassan could have made an army go into war and all of them get executed and there'd be no one protecting the sunnah of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt, or Imam Hassan was clever enough to say, wait, let's expose him because there is a day for Aba Abdullah to avenge what has happened. Truly, Aba Abdullah fought Yazid because Yazid was different from his father. Yazid was an open disbeliever, whereas his father was an open hypocrite. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us on the path of Imam Hassan ibn Ali, to allow us to follow his message, to defend him both in his personal life and his political life. Allow us to teach our children about the treaty of Hudaibiya and the treaty of Imam Hassan and how Imam Hassan followed the sunnah of his grandfather Rasulullah. Ya Allah, raise us with Imam Hassan on the day of judgment. Keep us away from the enemies of Imam Hassan. Ya Allah, raise us with the message of Imam Hassan. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all our brothers around the world who honor the message of Imam Hassan ibn Ali. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our ill brothers around the world, those who have been afflicted with disease, with the following dua, especially a couple of our brethren who are in London and those who are here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it the loudest of salawat.